Sorry about the delay. We're basically half an hour late from the start. So anyway, let's get started now. As I was saying, last week was quite an interesting week. We had a lot of developments happening. There was a lot happening on the political front and a lot happening on the financial front. I mean, if talking about what's happening in Portugal, the resignation of the government, the problems with downgrading Portugal, the possibility of Spain now getting in line with being downgraded. So the word that is going around that this is something that's going to be quite negative on the Eurozone. And we have seen also Germany taking a stance with regards to its policy with bailing out other countries. So they have agreed in about a bailout, but they haven't agreed on the final amounts or who's going to put so much guarantees. So there seems to be quite a cloud over the euro. Having said that, the way we trade, guys, is this. We are going to take in the political and economical events. We're going to take them into consideration, and then we're going to go to the chart and see if the chart or the price action does actually confirm whether the positive atmosphere or the negative atmosphere, and if it confirms it, then we are going to be trading into that direction. If it does not confirm it, then we are going to be trading in the technical direction. Our primary indicator is the technical buy or sell signal, or the price action, and that would be, if it confirms, then fine. If it doesn't, then we choose the technical and we follow the technicals. Okay, so there has been, as I said, we're expecting some or a lot of negativity on the euro. So having this in the back of our minds, we're going to go and analyze primarily the indices. So if we first take a look at the dollar index, and I am going to show you a chart which is basically clean without any of the lines. Okay. You could see that we have a significant point here, which is the 75.90, somewhere around that, in this area, which has been primarily the low of 2010 in the beginning and towards the so it was the end of 2009 and the end of 2010. It was also the foundation or the area where the market, the dollar, has been sitting upon, which is the 76, let's say the 76 handle. This is way back from 2008. And this is the all-time low for the dollar index. So the 75.93 or the 75, let's say the 76, for approximation, has been the all-time low for the US dollar. And for the several times, as you have seen here, it tries to break below it, and then finally it resolves itself to the upside. The second time, in the latter part of 2009, it did the same thing, and then it resolved itself to the upside. In the latter part of 2010, it did the same thing, and it resolved itself to the upside. Now, right now, what we have over here was the action in the dollar in the last few weeks. We did trade below the 76 handle, and we turned around and we have this kind of a close for the week. Believe it or not, this is a buy signal in the US dollar. We are in general extremely bearish for the dollar. We should be looking for a further continuation to the downside, but this is a short-term buy signal for the dollar, and we should respect this buy signal, and we should be looking now to be buying the dollar, and we expect to get a short covering move to the upside. So as long as the dollar index is above the 76, this week we are going to be looking at buying the US dollar. And you can see that also if you go back to my chart, which we have our markings on it, this is the 79, the 75, 93 or so, and this is considered as our buy signal. If we look at the other indices, if you look at the Swiss franc, the index of the Swiss franc, we have a major reversal with regards to the Swiss franc, and even though it is still in a bull market, it is still not it has not yet given us a sell signal. This is weakening that's coming in, and that might also confirm the action that we see or we are seeing in the US dollar. The real sell signal in the Swiss franc will be below the 107.62. So if the Swiss franc comes and trades below the 107.62, then we will have a major sell signal and we will be shorting the Swiss franc. As of now, it is weakening, but it is not yet a major sell signal. It could be a symbolic of a profit taking, and it should come down to test somewhere based around the 107. So we expect a further move to the down or further weakness in the Swiss to test at least the 107. If it breaks below the 107, then we're going to get a major sell signal. If we're going to look at, I'm doing it in special sequence so that we can see the order of events. If we look at the Canadian dollar, which is again very close to the US dollar, you can see from this chart that it is really the Canadian is one of those currencies that is so close or so much tied to the US dollar that it would be moving in one direction, but it is really in a very grinding way. So it is kind of neutral. The Canadian dollar is kind of neutral this week, and I might be looking for further weakness. If you look at the British pound, this is, as we have discussed last week, this is the pound is one of the weakest currencies. This is a major sell signal, and you can see from our actual pound chart, this was our selling point, or the index selling point, the reversal point of the 162.47 based on the index from last week, and now we reversed below it. We closed now at 160. So we have declined. The British pound has weakened after trading below the sell signal of 162. It is trading now at 160. So it has declined or weakened last week for about 250 pips, and it is setting up to another sell signal, which based on the index is the 159, let's say 39. And you can see from the chart that this one, the one I'm making 159.40 over here, has also been the lows for, I mean, you can see it very clearly here, has been these lows. This is where it held, and pretty much in the same avenue here for the last 6 weeks. This is where it has bounced above it. When we broke above the 159, it traded all the way to the next structure point or next significant point of 162, and the expectation after this was for it to continue to go up, but the weakness that has come in has given us this major sell signal, because this sell signal is actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sell signals in one. This is actually 5 sell signals in one, and therefore we are expecting that the pound to continue further down, and as soon as, or if it breaks the 159.40, we can expect really capitulation and another test maybe of the 156. So the pound is, as I said, the one with the biggest sell signal, so that should be the primary one for us to be a seller. If we come now to the euro dollar index, and this is a weekly chart, and this is all the action that we got based upon all the negativity that has been in the market, whether it is the Eurozone or whether it is the Portugal or the other events. All what we had was basically a down week. About the range of the whole week is maybe ballpark, let's say 200 pips, which is not particularly a big thing. The euro has been trying to test this high, which is the 142.46. It did not test it, it did not reach it, and we had this kind of a knee-jerk reaction in the euro following the news. But as I said, it is not a sell signal. This is just, it is still has the ability to continue higher, because that is a what it is synonymous to a pause. And you can see it over here. We just had, even though we had, with all the political events, we had an alternation of negative days and positive days. So as it stands now, if it breaks below maybe the 140 handle, or it breaks below, let's say I would say the 140 handle, because this now is a pretty significant point for us with regards to the euro index. It's still above the 140.01, so there is no reason for us to really start pushing selling the euro unless it breaks below the 1.40 handle. So right now, as it stands, we are still respecting that structure point of 1.40 based on the handle, and we are not yet ready to be shorting the euro as of now. The next one we want to look at is the Australian dollar, and this one was the strongest currency all of last week, and as you can see, it was one of the ones that we were looking actually on our buy list, and this has been extremely strong. It has turned around and now it is closing above the structure point. It has an all-time high close based on the index, and therefore the Aussie now should be our primary currency to be looking as buying it. And then we are also going to be looking at the US dollar. So if I'm going to rearrange my hierarchy right now, so the Aussie is number one. The second currency that I'll be looking to be a buyer is the US dollar, and I'm also looking to be a buyer. The euro is not as strong as the it is less, and the ones that I will be looking at selling them would be the Swiss franc, the Swiss franc is slightly weak. It has not yet generated a major sell signal, and the one that we should be selling it, or the weakest of them, is the British pound. So the weakest currency that we have, and this is the one that we should be looking at selling, would be the British pound. And we can then do this. I mean, these will be the pairs that we should be looking. The Australian is the strongest, followed by the US dollar. And the reason I say followed by the US dollar, even though it's an all-time low, is because the action that we are going to have in the dollar, if we are correct, would be a short covering rally, and that would give us an explosive move to the upside, followed by the euro. Yes, Matt, the one I did not do is the yen, so I will do that. Thank you. What do you guys think of the yen here? This is a... What do you think? This is a buy or a sell? Absolutely, you're absolutely right. I mean, it would look like a sell, but I want you to see this now. This is where price behavior comes into play. Look at this. See this now? That is a weekly chart. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're looking about 25 week, and you see this kind of move. That is a major sell signal, and we should be expecting massive liquidation or massive capitulation coming after this week. That was the week before last, not yesterday but the previous Friday, and then we had last week's trading, and this is all what we had. Once something like this happens and I don't get my expectation, I don't get the selling that I expect, I'm not going to say that, okay, this is a buy signal yet. All what I'm saying is that this market is not behaving as per our expectation. It is not giving me the reaction behind this. I should have had a swing down, maybe somewhere below the 110 or the one somewhere around here, something that equals this practically in length, somewhere over here. Once I don't get that, and I have something that doesn't even take out the previous daily week, it doesn't even test the weekly low, whatever it is. I mean, whatever it is, Robert. I mean, it could be intervention. I mean, if they're intervening, this thing should capitulate. Well, this would be non-intervention, okay? All what I'm saying is that there is something out of the norm over here. And if that's the case, because this sell signal has now, as it stands, this moment has failed. So if I have a signal in one direction that has failed, then there is a very high potential that a move in the opposite direction. In this case, we are not going to predict a move in the opposite direction. All what we are going to say is we are going to pinpoint specific points where above it we are going to buy the yen and below it we are going to be selling the yen. So right here I have a close on the index as 1.2289. So I will buy the yen if it trades above the 123.40, and we are going to translate that on the dollar yen chart and on the rest of the yen chart. But for the time being, our bias is still to the downside, and I want to make sure that it trades and takes out the low, this low over here of last week's low, which is the one, as you see here, is the 122.85, is actually what it closed for the week. So it is sitting on the selling point, but it has not yet triggered. It's sitting on a selling point, and it is sitting on a about 25 pips or 30 pips away from a buying point. So at this moment in time, we're going to be neutral the yen, and we are going to take these price points as our triggers in order to enter. Why? Because I have a buy signal and a sell signal that has failed. So in this case, I cannot have a bias. This is something that for us I have to wait. Okay. Now with that, we go back to the chart of the hierarchy. I can do it with the dollar yen anyway. So the Australian is strong, as I said. The dollar, even though it is weak, it is going to be defined by short covering to the upside, and I have again a situation to be to identify a point of getting short. The euro, even though we had quite negative news, it is pretty much similar to the yen. It didn't capitulate the way we expected to capitulate. Here is the chart for the euro. So again, I have only a sell signal, and it's sitting above the structure point. So the euro and the yen are kind of neutral. Okay, the Swiss franc is weakening, and the weakest of all is the British pound. So the pairs that we should be looking at today, we should be looking at going long the Aussie, short the pound, or short the pound Aussie. We should be looking at going long the dollar and short the pound. We should be looking at going long the euro and short the pound. We should be looking at long the dollar Swiss, also maybe long the Aussie Swiss, and we can look at the dollar, the euro Swiss. We do not want to take a position between the euro and the Aussie, because if I'm going to be looking at the euro Aussie, then it would be perceived that the Australian dollar will be much stronger than the euro. So I'll be looking, if you want to trade the euro Aussie, we'll be looking at buying the Aussie and selling the euro. When it comes to the dollar Aussie, now we have a special situation because I have a currency that is breaking to an all-time high, and I have a currency that is bouncing off a short covering, or it could be beginning a short covering rally. So they, even though I might be interested in the Aussie dollar, I might find a way to make money somewhere else other than the Aussie dollar. So we'll be looking at the pound dollar, the pound Aussie, the euro pound, the euro Swiss, the dollar Swiss, and the dollar and the Aussie Swiss. Okay, guys? All right, this is the indexes, and I'm going